Greetings, friends. My name is Jill Doopy, and I'm the Outreach Specialist for Adult Education at Lewis and Clark Community College. I'm here today to share with you some outreach and marketing efforts that we have implemented this year, and many of these are post-COVID strategies. So just to get you started, let you know what we have coming up, I'm going to share with you some social media posts and what I do with that. I'll talk about how we use photo releases to capture student images to use in our marketing tools and hashtags from the outreach campaign. We'll talk about partnerships with community organizations, how we use podcasts to share about student stories and successes. And then finally, we'll wrap up with talking about data collection and follow-up. So I'm going to go through everything kind of quickly. Hopefully, I'm sharing all the information that you find to be really helpful. First and foremost, just a quick overview of my job. I'm the outreach specialist and I'm new to this position. I started in January 2021. It was a brand new position for our department. And my role is a little bit all over the place, but primarily I focus on capacity building. I also communicate with the community, my colleagues within my department, and also my colleagues within the larger campus community as well. I also have the opportunity to create and share content. We'll talk about that shortly. I try to attend every possible community organization event that I'm invited to or seek out and invite myself to. I also implemented using an outreach calendar. That outreach calendar is a week-by-week strategy of what I want to focus on for that week. And I set that up at the beginning of the fiscal year. It does change, so it's fluid, but it's pretty consistent as far as focusing on certain tasks that we need to complete or accomplish at certain points in the year. I also work with community organizations, and I spend a lot of my time networking and sharing within those community organizations what services we provide and learning more about what they provide so that we can share that information with our students. And I do a lot of collaborating with our media services here at Lewis and Clark, where I work with them to have flyers created, press releases, and any kind of advertising that we might put out into the community. So first and foremost, social media is a lot of what I do. I manage our Facebook page. And first and foremost, I'd like to ask you to take about 2 seconds to go to your Facebook page, like and follow us, and I will follow you back. I like to share what's going on not only in our community, but at the larger state level as well. So if you have something exciting that's going on, I'm happy to share that out with our community. But our page is LNC Adult Education. So find us on Facebook and I will follow you back. My first tip for social media posting is I like to try to set up my post every week, a week in advance if possible. Sometimes I'm not able to do that because I might have an event that I throw in at the last minute, or maybe it's I share photos of things that are going on currently within the classroom. So like, for example, we do our service projects on Fridays with our Youth Build students. If on Friday I can capture some pictures of them in action, I'll post those immediately on Friday and just add that to those week's posts. If there's a special event coming up that I know in advance, I'll go ahead and just set that up and get that on the calendar so that it's ready to go. Or if there's holidays, I like to put holidays on Facebook. So basically, some of the things that I've learned from the training I've received here through Lewis and Clark is don't always advertise, try to put out fun and interesting material as well. When I do advertise, though, I like to have an ask. I like to ask the audience to either call us or sign up using a Google Doc link. I've created this Google Doc link and it has only maybe 5 questions, just some general information, contact information to be able to reach back out to anyone who's interested in our services. I also always include a photo with my post, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. And one of the ways that I do this is I use Canva. Canva is a really great resource, a free tool, and there's a lot of fun things if you like to play with creating images and kind of creating your own content. This is a really fun tool to use. I have it on my phone, so that if I'm out in the field, I can just put together a very quick photo collage and put that up there, put it up on Facebook with a caption. So I definitely recommend that anyone try to use that. Another thing we do on our social media is we have a family literacy coordinator who is really fantastic at creating a monthly calendar of what events are going on within the community. And I'll take the calendar and I'll post that on Facebook at the beginning of every month. So I kind of designate Wednesdays as sort of my family literacy day. I try to have a certain topic for each day, and I try to follow that guideline as well. One thing I like to do, I've already mentioned, is use student images. So as often as possible, whether it's you taking the images or someone in your that you work with taking images, try to use your actual student images as much as you possibly can. And you might be wondering, how do we do that? Well, what we do is when students are in the intake process, we actually have them fill out a photo release form. So we get our photo releases early, and that way we already have it set in place. We kind of explain to them, hey, we like to share stuff on social media, and we just want to make sure it's okay if we use your image. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10 students are agreeable. In fact, in my short tenure here, I haven't had any students that were not okay with it. So ask your students for permission as early as you can, right when you get them into your program, and then you have that set in place. So I have a couple examples on this slide of some photos and images, photo collages that I've created. In the left-hand corner, or left-hand image, you see a picture of students at a Cardinals game. One of our construction instructors took it upon himself to take some students to their first ever St. Louis Cardinals game because they worked really hard and showed up one day and just really put the work in. So he just wanted to treat them to that. And I made sure to recognize that. And the students love being on social media. They love being featured on our page. So I think it makes them feel a little bit like a celebrity whenever they get featured on our pages. So this other image I have is the day that one of the times that students picked out their work boots from our boot truck that comes along for Youth Build program. So one thing I also do is I ask my students, if they're not on Facebook, to ask their parents or their family members or their friends or whoever they know that is on Facebook to like and follow our page so that they can also see what they're up to when they're in our program. So it's a really fun thing to do. And like I said, I think students really enjoy that. So don't forget to share on your social media upcoming events. Like I said, it doesn't all have to be advertising. I like to share about just, what we're doing in the day-to-day field. I like to create a photo collage of daily activities. It could just be a teacher in the classroom one day. Maybe they're having a special topic. We are doing we're doing financial literacy in the month of September. So posting pictures of students in that class and in that training is something that I like to do as well. I also like to share information or news from other organizations. So if it's any organization or community partner that we're working with and they have something going on that I can kind of connect to what we're doing, then I like to share that information as well. And you can see here in my image in the left-hand corner that I've not only incorporated our Lewis and Clark logo, but I've also included the Illinois Adult Education logo. One more thing that I do also, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time here talking about, is hashtags. I find this to be really helpful because different organizations have different audiences who follow them. So for example, Lewis and Clark Community College has a really big reach, but Lewis and Clark Adult Education is not as big of a reach because we're fairly new in terms of our Facebook page. So I try to hashtag everything. I try to think if there's any way that I can incorporate any kind of hashtag that will give us a bigger reach into a sentence, then I try to incorporate. So like hashtag adult ed is one that I use all the time because, I also tag Lewis and Clark Community College because a bigger reach. So I'll say like, today here at Lewis and Clark Community College, we are learning about, or we're working within the community, and our adult ed students are really enjoying the time that they get to spend in this beautiful weather, or something like that. And that is just very simple and straightforward, but I try to hashtag. So here's a list of all the hashtags that I use on a regular basis. And if I can, I will also tag our community partners, especially in those times where we are working with them or doing something with them, because again, if they are willing to share that or we've tagged them in that, then that reach is so much bigger and better. one more thing that we do is working with our community partners on basically trying to bring in services and opportunities for our students. So one thing I do is I also share with our community partners what we have going on. So I'm regularly sending updates by email to my list of community partners. I do have a spreadsheet that I keep updated, and it is also very fluid. So I'm constantly changing and adding community partners to it. And I just copy and paste all of those emails into it, or all of those emails into my email account, and update that and send them a list of what's going on. Sometimes it's a flyer, sometimes it's an email with details of when our class times are, but I try to do like a regular, about a month, every month or every month and a half, an update. I try not to bombard them too much. Also, we have a quarterly newsletter where we like to share news about what's going on within our department and within our program. So this newsletter, I have a couple of sections that are consistent, that never change in terms of what we are covering. Some of those, we always highlight a community partner, and we always highlight students or successes or current events. I also try to incorporate, the calendar of what's coming up, upcoming events and upcoming opportunities that we want our community partners to share out. I share this also with our high school partnerships and principals, superintendents, all of those people. I try to give them updates. And recently I had a high school counselor who said that getting that information was really helpful, because they know not only who to contact to get that information directly, but also that it's going to come to them and they're going to get updates as soon as that information becomes available. So I try to make sure that I put that information out there on a regular basis for everyone. We're currently working with Madison County Employment and Training with using a grant that we have for construction training, and we have partnered with them. We try to partner with them as much as possible. It's pretty regular, actually, that we partner with them, and we join forces and not only disseminating the information about the opportunities we offer, but that we exist. So we will, a lot of times I see a lot of the same community organizations at different events, and I've been establishing relationships with people. I think that's a really important part of my work, is developing relationships. So I try to let people know all the time what we have going on. Whenever I'm going into a meeting, I'm thinking about what's coming up. I'm thinking about what I want to get from them, what information I need. And then I keep track of that information so that I can provide our students with information about the services that we have in the community, which we have a lot of, and I'm really grateful for. So we try to combine efforts with Madison County and also the Job Center in spreading the word about what's going on. Last thing I do is I do a monthly podcast. And in that monthly podcast, I focus on different topics. Our podcast name is Building Futures, Preparing the Workforce of Tomorrow. And I always have a yearly plan. So that our yearly plan right now is to highlight students. Last year, it was to highlight our community partners. One of the things that I've been doing that I really like is that I have a student who's co-hosting with me right now. He absolutely loves it, and he feels like this is something he wants to do in his future. So this is giving him a really good taste of what it's like. And I've been able to mentor and work with him on learning how to be an interviewer and how to incorporate this into his future. So definitely check out our podcast. It's Building Futures, Preparing the Workforce of Tomorrow. And every single month this year, I'll be highlighting a different student and sharing their success stories. So an aspect of my job that is very, very, very important is follow-up. It's something that I think can be really challenging, especially if you tend to be on the shy side, but I have to really remember that the most important thing is not only getting the word out, but also following up. So I always make sure that we follow up. If it's not me that follows up with a student, I try to make sure that somebody in my department, one of my colleagues, is able to do that. I keep a spreadsheet of students who I get from our leads list from the campaign that we're doing this year. And I also keep a spreadsheet through Google Forms of students that have filled out our Google form and that I have followed up with. So I try to keep track of how I'm reaching out to those students. So I like to start with a phone call because I'm a very interpersonal person. So I like to have that phone conversation with somebody. And if they don't answer, which sometimes that happens, then I will follow up with an email. If I don't get an answer from them via email, I'll call them again. And one thing I'm trying to explore very soon is sending text messages, because I think sometimes people are a little more comfortable with responding to text messages. So I'll be incorporating that in my future actions of following up. So another thing I like to know is, where are my efforts working? When students come into our intake, when I'm doing intake with students, or if they call in and they get one of our division assistants, then they ask them, how did you hear about our program? I'll be honest, a big part of how our students learn about our program is word of mouth. I don't think that will ever change. I think that's a really great thing. A lot of students learn about our program from family members, friends, siblings, but mostly that's where they're hearing about what we're doing. And who knows where those people heard about it first? Maybe they heard about it through one of my efforts. But anyway, I think it's really important to not only follow up, but try to keep track of how students are hearing about your program and what your services are. So I'm not afraid to ask a student if I see them in the hallway, or if I'm doing intake with them, how did you learn about our program? And another thing that I do is I check out the Meta Business Suite. I don't obsess over it because it just changes so much, but I would say the social media, Facebook Meta Business Suite gives you statistics on what your reach is, and it tells you how many new people you have, how many new followers, and all of that. So with all that being said, these are my strategies. I hope that something I said is very helpful. I hope that maybe something you'll be able to implement with your program. And I encourage you to go forth, communicate, create, and share.